came to the realization that there are several fetishes around scuba diving, detailing out what they needed this video to be. It had to be 16 minutes long. They needed the breathing sounds, a whole lot of just straight up incompetence in there.
Welcome to my channel, Azul Unlimited, and today I have a special guest for our video. We're going to talk about women in scuba diving. So I want to introduce Olivia to the channel. How are you doing today?
Good. How about you?
Excellent. I'm so stoked to have you here. I've been watching your growth on Instagram and it's just been absolutely wild. Like I've never seen anything like it in, scuba diving social media. So it's very cool. Congratulations.
Are you sure this water's sanitary? It looks questionable to me.
Thanks. It's been a wild ride.
I can imagine. And we're going to get into that because we're talking about being a woman in a male dominated space. And that is a little dicey at times, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can be
Um,
interesting.
so just for people who don't know your background, you are a scuba instructor. Do you want to share just a little bit, like how much time you've been in the industry and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I've been like a professional diver for about 5 years. I was up to staff instructor. I'm not currently an active, well, like a active status, but I'm not currently actively teaching. Just recently. And then I also, for my full-time job, I work as a dive safety officer. So I manage like safe diving practices for an aquarium management company. So divers that dive in aquariums for cleaning, service, all that kind of stuff, making sure that they are following safety procedures, all the OSHA stuff. That's what I do. It's my full-time job, my legit job.
Okay, your legit job, not this social media stuff.
Yeah, not the
Come
social
on,
media. That's a whole side thing.
right?
My
um,
bosses follow me though.
what's that?
My bosses do follow me though.
I'm sure that's led to some interesting conversations sometimes.
They're pretty cool.
I love it. So I have some questions for you. We're just going to go and flow through this conversation and share some funny stories and maybe not so funny stories, that kind of not ha ha funny moment. And we'll just see where this takes us. But I would love to hear, just in general, what has been your experience as a feminine presenting person in the scuba industry?
Yeah, so I've had like very like black and white, I guess, differences throughout. For the most part, when I'm like in person at the dive shops I've worked at and things like that, I've had a very great base. I think I had at one dive shop, I had one individual who was a little bit more problematic, but a lot more of my experiences come from the internet, the wonderful world of the internet. So yes, I've been super, super lucky that I have been around people in real life who are much more respectful and welcoming and uplifting of women in the industry. I think that partially had to do with I would go and like visit dive shop like before I just show up and be like, I'm gonna work here. I'd go and kind of feel out the vibes before start like applying or anything like that. So that would give me a good idea of if I felt like it was a safe space or not. Doesn't mean it couldn't have been different at a different shop, but I got lucky or was strategic in
Yeah.
getting lucky.
Yeah, I mean that's really one of the things that we learn as women in general and women in this industry, that you do have to be a little strategic, right? You have to watch out for yourself. You kind of touched on this, things to watch out for as a feminine presenting person in the sport. So, you mentioned kind of vetting dive shops, making sure that they're safe spaces. Is there anything else that you just kind of do out of habit in diving, working, or just recreationally?
Yeah, absolutely. I like my swimwear that I wear for when I'm in working mode is completely different from what I'm doing in my own thing. Like I have a full long sleeve shorts, like, or I'm wearing even the pants. Like, I am not in bikini when I'm teaching. I'm not doing it. I don't, I mean, there could be plenty of people that are going to be fine and respectful about it, but it's just not something I even want to run into, especially when I'm working. So I just eliminate it from being a problem and just completely cover.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
I I relate. I did the same thing like real early on in my career. I switched to like yoga shorts
Yep,
basically as my bottoms,
that's what I do.
and oh my gosh, it made such a difference. I don't know. I mean, part of it for me was just like my own comfort, just to like not be
Not have
messing
to think about
around
it.
with
Yeah.
anything. But also it's yeah, there's a safety level to it of just being, not putting yourself out there in that way, which sucks. Like it sucks that we have to think about that, but it's the reality of the industry. I
Yeah.
also I ended up switching or, kind of maintaining that style because I was working in a place where there was a strong Muslim culture, right?
Mhm.
And so even though the locals understood that us on the boat, foreigners, we don't have the same culture. It was something for me also out of respect to them
Right.
to like be covered and do as much as I can. I'm not, I wasn't like fully
That'd be extreme, yeah, but
yeah. What kind of work discrepancies have you seen between you and your masculine colleagues?
yeah, so for this one, it's gonna be that one individual that I had problems with, and the biggest thing was just that he kind of, like, pushed me around more, like, he threw a bunch of tasks offered to me, or, like, I became, like, the quote, unquote, "tank bitch," you know what I mean? Like, I was his personal little servant to carry all his tanks for him, his weights, his equipment, all the things, all the tasks. There were times where I'd have to literally drive to the dive shop to open a drawer and get out like the medical form for him because he like didn't know where it was. Things like that. It's just like ridiculous. Um, and obviously he wasn't pushing around the other guys. So that was
What do they call that? There was a viral sound on TikTok, incompetence. Did you ever hear that one?
About to try a brand new form of a gaslight. Gonna make her do 'em, but first I gotta ask, right? Listen, babe, if I do it, I'ma mess it up. Listen, babe, is this the way that you wash a cup? I can take the trash, girl, I'm not that stupid. But could you maybe show me how to do it? Dance, dance, about to do my little incompetence.
There's definitely some weaponized incompetence in there. There was also a whole lot of just straight up incompetence in there. Whoop.
These are kind of standard things that you would see in probably any industry, but things that require muscles or whatever, like those tasks are typically, I mean, apparently not for you, but but those are typically, given to the men, and then women are posted out front to sell,
Oh,
right?
sure.
And that was something, at least in the tropics, that was very prevalent. Get the prettiest people out to the front to draw in clients, which I don't know. I mean, I guess sex always sells, right? So that's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
guess so.
the thing that, what is that, marketing, like the first thing you learn in marketing, and they've just stuck to that.
Right, yeah. Well, what's not broken, don't fix it, I guess.
Unfortunately. One funny story that happened actually just recently. I won't share specifics because I don't want to, out the person, but like there was a definite shift in the interaction pre telling him that I had a dive shop, had a boat, and like did all these things. Pre that conversation and post. Like it was such a tangible change in his demeanor, in his, tone with me, the things that he was open to talking about. It was so weird to me because I just hadn't experienced it for quite a while because I haven't been like really in the industry. I've kind of been floating in the, YouTube universe,
Right.
which is weird.
Now,
Yeah, but it was really fascinating because, at first it was like, oh, okay, this, it kind of, to me, my perception of it was he was like, okay, this warm water diver wants to, is like hanging out in cold water, like what, you know? And then once I said, I gave him some details about life and diving in Komodo and what I'm doing now. And he was like, oh, and like started to like actually engage with me as if I was worth it, you know?
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. It's so frustrating. I've noticed it more with kind of the older generation of divers. Yeah.
Yep.
Which sucks because I've met so many awesome older divers who
Oh
just
yeah.
like don't care and are so fun, but it seems to be a type, you
Yeah.
know? So I don't know. I don't know what that leads us to, but I was thinking about that. I was like, oh yeah, that did happen just like recently.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, I guess. So I brought in this next question because I have one specific example, and I'm just really curious to see what you've seen out there. But most ridiculous use of feminine bodies to sell scuba.
I think it kind of had phased out by the time I entered the industry. But again, to go back to that one individual in the tank closet where we like filled all the tanks up, he had like dive posters all over the wall, and they were all just women in bikinis with scuba gear on. And it looks like they were, when you like used to get magazines, like the teen pop magazines or whatever with the magazines in them. That's what I imagine they came like. It was like a scuba magazine with the posters inside of it with the women in it. That's what I imagine, but I don't know where they came from. But yeah, it was just like scuba women in bikinis all over the wall. And I was always like, okay.
Oh Lord. And that was in the tank room in the shop.
Yeah, where the like compressor was. Yeah.
It's fine because only boys go and work on the compressor, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So, God. My all-time favorite example of this was I saw an ad come out where it was a man and a woman, both of them in side mount harness in the jungle, which you would assume is the Mexican jungle because that's where most side mount divers are.
Sure.
And the man, of course, was in a full wetsuit because that's what you would wear to go cave diving in Mexico.
Yep.
And the woman was just in a bikini. And my brain immediately went to, first of all, she would die in the caves, like going even for cavern dive for an hour. Like that would be so cold, you know? Two, the mosquitoes. Like I'm trying to
Oh, yeah.
imagine, oh my God, that photo shoot must have been a nightmare for that poor model, whoever that was. But it was just one of those moments where you're like, dude, you're just doing it for, for that
Yeah.
click.
Yeah.
And anybody who, I don't know, when you're advertising things, especially like a side mount harness, you're not advertising to the general public who are just getting into scuba diving. It's like you're advertising to people who know their stuff. So like, why are you using that? But again, the easy marketing answer.
For real. I mean, I'm not as familiar with the cave diving community, but I imagine it's also pretty male dominated. So they're definitely like queuing into that audience for sure.
Big time. Yeah. I mean, I've done some cave diving, but I don't claim to be like I would definitely need a refresher to get back into caves, which I'm hoping to do next year. I think that might be
On the
a
list.
goal. Yeah. So we're going with kind of funny stories that a man has ever said to you in person.
All right. So I was teaching a class. Okay. Well, I guess back up a bit. I taught up in Minnesota, not a crazy huge scuba world. So a lot of the diving that we did was in these mine pits. So we were out at one of the mine pits, and there was another group that showed up to go and do diving, and I was setting all my students up to, get their equipment and everything and get going with the course. And some guy came up to me, or the guy who, showed up with his friends to go dive for fun, came up to me and he was like, "Oh, what are you teaching?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I have like an open water class, but then there was like advanced students there that were going to be in the afternoon. Like there was a lot of classes going on. Like I wasn't just teaching one class, but they all happened kind of like staggered throughout the day." So I was like, "Well, it's a lot of different things." And I'm like explaining that. And he was like, "No, I mean, like, what are you teaching?" And I was like, "Scuba diving?" Like I was so confused. And he's like, it was a joke. I was trying to make a joke, and I just like stared at him confused, and I'm like, what are you trying to get at?" And I was just staring at him, and he was like, what are you, he just kept repeating it. And finally I just said, "You know what? No offense, but I think it's just not that funny." And he was like, "Okay," and I walked away. But I think what he was getting at was that like I couldn't be teaching scuba diving. Like a woman wasn't the one teaching the scuba course. Like, no, you're teaching what? Because it's not scuba. Like
Right.
it's not these classes. And I was like, dude, screw off.
Yeah. Get out of my face. Oh gosh. Some guy comes up to you and you're like, I did not start this. Like, I didn't instigate this. Like, please just leave me alone. And I
Yeah,
feel like
literally random. I was like, hello?
I feel like that's the majority of like negative interactions with men in this sport. It's like I'm literally just existing over here. Like,
Yeah,
can you not? Like just not.
stay out of it. Not involved.
Yeah. I was just thinking back to my experiences and some of the stories that I have. I just always felt like I had to prove that I was worth being talked to professionally.
Right.
Like that was something that was very prevalent, especially as an IDC staff instructor. Most of the bosses, course directors in that world, teaching instructors, they're men with students too. Even, I don't know, even with other women sometimes. I've had really negative interactions with some other women where it's like they don't want to, I don't know, learn from another woman or be, held responsible because, during professional courses, we're usually kind of tough on our students, right? Because we want them
Yeah.
to succeed. And I found that I would be treated in a different way, whereas like the same words out of Aitor's mouth would be totally fine,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, it's always the most like disheartening and like disappointing when it's a woman.
Yeah,
Like you kind of have that guard up for men, so it's like almost expected, but then when a woman does it, you're like, "Oh,
I know.
man, that sucks."
Yeah. Yeah. I've loved seeing the stuff that you were sharing, I think around Women Dive Day, and just the community that you're really building. I think it's important because yeah, it sucks when those of us, we try. I just want to see all of us just like lift each other up because there's so much in the world that is bringing us down. So I'm really excited to get into some of the stuff that you've experienced, mostly just because I think it's going to be sort of funny, but like also I'm just really morbidly curious.
Yeah.
So you have had ridiculous success on social media so far. Going into the scary world of the internet, what's kind of the funniest thing that somebody has said?
Well, I have a whole heaps and hordes of for you if we could go on all day, but I think I'll start with the one that might be the most like strange, like really like put you back. Like what? I was early on into starting onto the internet, came to the realization that there are several fetishes around scuba diving. Wetsuit. There's also breathing apparatus. So I like did a full face mask video on YouTube. That one brings in the most fetish community of any of the things that I've done, and I really like that video. I think it's really helpful, and I
It's a
think there's
good
a lot of
video.
people a
Yeah.
lot of people that really appreciate it, but at the same time, I will never do a full face mask video ever again because it's just it's too much. But anyway, from that, and I did put some full face mask stuff on Instagram until I started realizing what was happening. But I would get started getting requests sent to me of things they wanted the video to be like as if I was an OnlyFans channel, like account. So one of the emails that I got, and this is also an email. They sent me an email. Like it's not a DM or a comment. They typed out an email to me that was like 2 paragraphs long, detailing out what they needed this video to be. It had to be 16 minutes long. They needed the breathing sounds. There was not supposed to be any voiceover or music or anything disrupting from the breathing sounds. And if I could wear knit gloves, that would be preferable. Yeah.
What?
Yep. That was literally one of my requests that I got in this long and it was much more like they really went into explaining what they needed from me. But I was like,
Immediately no.
I was like, what? First of all, I don't even get to understand. Second of all, at what point in my content did it like make you think that this is the kind of thing that I do? Like, where did we cross paths here? Like, I'm so lost.
Oh my god. I was curious about that because I remember seeing you write something about the knit gloves, and I was like, what? Like,
That's the one.
that is, oh my gosh. And I'm very naive,
Sure.
and I had no idea that that was going on. When I saw your full face mask video, I was like, hell yeah, that's freaking rad. And
Yeah.
I think that's actually how I started sort of following
Pretty
you.
much most people find me through that video.
Yeah. Um, so that's really wild. I have never tried one of those, but now I know that
Be
that might not
careful,
be a
or
great
at
thing
least
to.
yeah, at least no. If you're prepared for it and you don't mind, then go for it. But yes, that will come with the territory.
Good
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I was saying this before we started recording, but I've had very much a slow burn on social media, just like, YouTube has been slowly growing over the years. And um, honestly, I've been stagnant on Instagram forever because I don't spend enough time on any of the apps. So
Instagram's dying anyway, so
well, there is that. It's weird. I mean, I get some comments, but I haven't gotten the extensive, like, that sort of weird stuff.
I was getting at least one a week
Jesus.
for like a year.
Wow.
Or at
Oh my
least like
god.
if it wasn't some kind of comment, it would be like I would see that it was a fetish account that followed me because they would have like the breathing apparatus in their profile picture or whatever. They just straight up say. Now there could still be plenty of people who follow me that are in the fetish community that just aren't like have fetish Instagram accounts, and I'll never know. Or even on YouTube too, even less on YouTube, I'll have any idea because a lot of times you can't see who the subscriber is. So yeah, I a lot of times can't tell, but either comments, emails. I've gotten I think 3 or 4 emails actually. The fact that people are emailing me, I'm like, you have to be pretty old. Like who's been pulling out
Absolutely.
the email?
Absolutely. And if they're doing, I mean, like, I don't know, sometimes people are like, God, I can't believe that they do, all this stuff. And they make these comments, and I'm like, honestly, I just feel sorry for these people. Like, I don't even like, what is your life that is what you do? Like,
Yeah, I had what else? I got another email that was like some old man. He literally referred to himself as a creepy old man in the email. And he was looking for a companion on his sailboat to sail across. And I was like, I'm gonna get on a boat and go out in the middle of nowhere with you? Absolutely not. No. Especially when you're referring to yourself. Yeah, he literally ended it with, and yes, I am a creepy old man. I was like,
ah,
can you go away?
yeah. Oh no. No, no, no. Ew. No,
uh,
I think the only ones that I get consistently are that I should put my hair down, which I should have had my hair up in a bun just in
I,
just for this video. But I get that pretty often, that, comments on my looks and whatever. And I'm like, dude, I live in a van. Like, I haven't worn makeup in over 6 years. Like, this is the
yeah.
wrong account to be following if you think that I care about what I look like.
Right.
But I don't know. That's crazy. So what then is like the worst or grossest, outside of creepy old man? Do you have something that you're just like, oh God?
Yeah, I think the one that kind of jarred me the most was one that says, like, along the lines of, "Oh, you pretty little scuba girl, I want to tie you up and knock you, like, pass me out with chloroform," something around those lines. And I was like, "Whoa,
Ew.
whoa." Okay. I was like, that, like, the other ones are just kind of like, ew, like you're looking at me gross in the privacy of your own home. That one starts to get to a point where I'm like, oh, I really don't like need people to know where I live.
I think
Or
that's smart. Yeah.
don't find me. There's also been people that are literally like want to like drop everything, any amount of money to fly clear across the world just to dive with me. And I'm like, I get that you might be excited, or and you might be chill, but like that's really intense for somebody you've never met. It's not like I've had DM conversations with
Yeah.
them or anything. It's just completely out of nowhere. Where do you live? I'm going to fly out and dive with you. And I'm like,
No.
no,
And
absolutely
yeah.
not.
That makes sense, because I remember seeing that you were like, this is as much as I'll tell you about where I am, because
Yeah,
the
when I
internet
lived
is
in
scary.
Minnesota, I never said that I lived in Minnesota at all because it was such a small diving community
Right.
that I was like, you can pin me down to a location real quick. In
Right.
Florida, I'm like, I could be literally anywhere in Florida. Good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah. No,
So I just say,
that's
I'm in
nice.
Florida.
Yeah. There's definitely safety in numbers there. Yeah, that's something that I've been really it's been an interesting world to navigate. I got to tell you, because I don't know if you know this, but I've met up with some strangers from the internet on this trip that I'm doing. And I've tried to do my best and like vet people, and but it can be a scary world out there for us, putting ourselves out there on the internet. You don't really know. And it's like I'll walk into a dive shop and people know who I am, and it's like, oh yeah, you know who I am, but I have no freaking idea who you are. But that's been the interesting thing for me to navigate with this road trip, because it's like I want to meet people, but I have to. I don't know, the only way that I've been able to deal with it is by just going with my gut.
Yeah.
Like, there are some people that haven't been around very much, and they say that they're from here and they really want, and I'm like, no, I'm not so sure about you, but then other people who have been a part of, my world for a little while, I'm like, okay, I think that this is an okay risk. I make sure that my dad knows where I am and what's going
Yeah.
on. And like,
Meet in a public space first
yeah,
and then move to the dive site. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, there's all these things that we can do to protect ourselves, but ultimately, it's, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard being a woman in this field.
Yeah.
Or just on this planet in general.
We're pushing through it, and it's hopefully getting lesser and lesser as we keep making people aware of that it's not okay. So that's what I hope for, at least, is just that it continues to just kind of keep getting better, and that this older generation kind of weeds out, ages out of it. Like, you just age out of the industry, and hopefully the younger generation hasn't picked up on those bad habits and bad behavior.
Yeah, I think that's true. You know, I mentioned it on I did the Dive Table podcast recently, and I'm convinced Gen Z is gonna save us all. Like, each generation gets more, you know, out there and open and welcoming. So I think we'll get there.
Yeah, I think that's our next step, actually. After Women's Dive Day, I was like, oh, like, we need like to have like an LGBTQ plus day. Like, why do we not have that yet? Like, we're already behind. Let's keep going. Like,
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I heard of there's a group in California. Yeah, that does that. And I don't know if it's the same group. I know that Dive Ninja Expeditions is hosting a big LGBTQ plus like trip. I don't know if that's the same group, but it's, you know, it's getting out there. We're just a little bit behind the times. Well, thank you so much for joining me and talking about the stuff that kind of gets lost in direct messages. I think it's important because people need to be, I mean, we all need to be held accountable for the way that we behave on and offline, right? So I think it's an important thing to share with people. And I love that you've always been so open with that on your platforms. I hope that at some point you will let me dive with you.
No.
Is that cool?
Yeah, no,
would I be allowed?
Love to.
Well, we've already discussed how we have similar like dreams. So I have a feeling
you're like already on this journey of what I was like, oh, I wish I could pull this off.
Yeah. So maybe one of these days we'll just meet up in some random state and go scuba diving together.
I'll show you the Midwest dive holes.
Oh God. Deal.
Where you can reach your hand out and you won't see your fingers.
Oh, trust me, we have that kind of visibility in California too.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. California gets there for sure.
Not fun.
But it is the ocean, so there will at least be something else other than your hand there. Where
this is true.
You're lucky to see a bluegill.
This is very true. Just real quick, do you want to plug anything, any projects that you're working on or your social channels?
You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok. Instagram's Fully Submerged Scuba. TikTok is Fully Submerged. I have a YouTube too. I'm not super great at it currently. I've gotten really lazy with the editing of the videos. It's so much work. Holy crap.
It's a lot of work. Like, too much work.
It's a lot. But I do have a YouTube. It's also Fully Submerged. So you can follow me there. There's at least enough content to get you for a little bit. And then maybe hopefully by then I'll have posted something else.
We'll hold you to that. Your YouTube community will hold you to that. Well, cool. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. Leave your comments about women in scuba diving or any like anecdotes, any silly, gross, weird stories that you have. Even though I know my audience is like 96% male, I'm sure that there's somebody out there that has a story. So leave those in the comments below and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss my next video. And again, thank you so much, Olivia. And I hopefully will actually meet you in person at some point to do random diving.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is great.